Hi. So I wanted to talk about Purim and this class. Just saying, whoever is watching I'm doing on Facebook, but I'm also recording and I'm gonna be posting on Instagram, YouTube, or whatever. Okay, so sorry, I came from the rain. That's I'm gonna start the class with talking about the mitzvahs of Purim, and then because that's the most important. Then we're gonna go. I want to talk a little overview on Jewish history. I'm sorry if there is, a lot of background noise. I'm in a public place. Oh, I wanted to. Sorry, just one sec. I'm gonna tag. Let me see if I. No, I lost it. I wanted to tag my husband, but okay, that's how it's gonna go. So Purim, there is 4 mitzvahs that we have to do. Sorry, a little introduction before talking about the mitzvahs of Purim that I did say on my stories, so I'm gonna repeat very fast. Jewish holidays are not about celebrating something that happened in the past and is a celebration, and it's about whatever happened on that holiday. There is a spiritual energy that will sorry, I just want to see something before there is a spiritual energy on that day, and that's what caused that holiday to happen. So I'm going to use example, let's say Pesach. The spiritual energy of Pesach, Passover, was freedom, and every year on Pesach we can grasp this energy if we do the things and experience personal freedom and hopefully soon our community freedom with the coming of Mashiach. So the energy of Purim, and that's why the days have to be celebrated on the days, and that's why there is mitzvahs that we do. It's very nice. You can have a Purim party 3 days before Purim, but that's not celebrating Purim. You're learning about Purim, and it's great, but that's not it. The Jewish law is very specific because of that. So so Purim, what happened? What's the energy? So again, I'm starting with the mitzvahs, and whoever hang around, you're gonna hear more about what's the energy and why we're doing that. There is 4 mitzvahs in Purim. One of them we're gonna do 2 times. So let's go. The 4 mitzvahs. Yeah, visual aid. We have listening to the Megillah. There's a lot of details to that. One detail is it has to be done twice, on the night of Purim and then again on the day of Purim. We don't hear only once. There is 2 times that should be done. This year, the night of Purim is Monday night, and then the day of Purim is Tuesday. In our shul specific, we're gonna have during the party on Monday night, we're gonna have 2 readings, one right in the beginning of the party and one towards the end of the party. And then on Tuesday, we're going to have a reading in the morning during the prayer service, and then again during the second party. And the listening to the Megillah has to be done without a microphone through the voice of the rabbi. And so no Zoom, no recording, and through a real Megillah. Now there is the other mitzvah. That's a mitzvah that that people know about giving shalach manos, the gifts of food. So to complete this mitzvah, you need to give 2 kinds of food to at least one Jewish friend. Woman give to woman, men give to men. If you want to give extra, very nice. But the mitzvah is to one person. Now there is the 3rd mitzvah. That's for some reason some people spend more on the number 2 than on the number 3, and should be the opposite. Number 3 is to give charity. We always, whenever we're celebrating, we always remember the people that can't afford, the community. That's something that I think is amazing about Judaism, is the idea of a community. So we have to give charity to at least 2 people. And the charity should be given on the day of Purim. If this is one mitzvah, though, if you can't do yourself, if you're not going to see a poor person, you can even, specific talking to whoever is watching, you can give to us and we will pass to a poor person, or you can, there is many organizations that will do that for you. And mitzvah number 4 is to have a feast, to have a kosher meal and enjoy the day. And that should be done on Tuesday, anytime before sunset. So if you want to do, like I was saying about our show, we're going to have a meeting in the morning, followed by breakfast. If you want to do the meal on the breakfast, you are welcome. If you want to join our party later on, you want to have some falafel, you can do that on the second party. So these are the 4 mitzvahs of Purim. Why? Why are we doing? What's Purim? So let's talk a little bit about the Jewish history of Purim. Purim is a holiday that let's start. There was in Persia. Today is Iran. I always mix up Iraq and Iran, but I'm pretty sure it's Iran. And it's there was a king called Achashverosh, and he was the king to 127 lands, and he started doing a party. There is many this story that I'm saying, it's going to be very short. Purim is a holiday that has so much commentary into it, so much more detail. So I'm not saying all the details, but letting you know there is so much more. And I really advise, there is so much out there for you to read and figure out more. It's a very powerful holiday. One thing I wanted to say also, I always say that every year, so I'm sorry if you already heard. What's the holiday that fill up every single synagogue? Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur is mentioned, there is Yom HaKippurim, a day like Purim. So can you imagine what you accomplish by fasting by 25 hours, going to the synagogue and praying, you can accomplish on Purim by doing the 4 mitzvahs and praying too. But we're drinking, we're partying, we wear costumes, much easier way to celebrate. And it's a very powerful day. And I really, I'm just repeating that because I heard from so many people, oh, but Tuesday I have this, I have that, I have work, I have activities. And I'm not, each one had their own challenge. And I'm not saying a judging way, I'm just saying maybe it would be possible for you to take half an hour off and go hear Megillah next to where you're working. Or maybe your kids will miss activity one time. It is a very powerful day. It's very important to celebrate. And I do know it's hard, and for me it's easy, that's my job. But if you can put an effort to celebrate, like a lot of people that wouldn't, again talking about Yom Kippur, they wouldn't even question. And Yom Kippur, there is a thing that we don't drive, whatever, that we don't work, but that would not be a question that you're going to ask off from work on Yom Kippur, right? You wouldn't even question that your kid's not going to go to whatever they're going to go. So maybe think of trying to put the effort to celebrate Purim. You don't have to take a day off work. You don't have, to cancel school or whatever, but there is ways to celebrate. And if you want to message me, you want me to find a synagogue next to you where you're working or where the kids are in school, but it's very important to fulfill all the 4 mitzvahs. So their story, there was this king and he did a party. And on the party, he was married to a queen called Vashti, and he called his queen to appear at the party. What, adding some commentaries, people said wasn't so modest appear that he was requesting. But she wasn't a modest person, she was a very mean person. She wasn't, modesty was something that she cared, but for some reason she said no. And the king said, no one says no to me. He sent her to death. And it says then he woke up the next day and he's like, I want a queen, I want a wife. So how should I find a new wife? Make a beauty contest, oi pai to the bay. And you make a beauty contest, and all the women, they were forced to join this beauty contest. The contest lasted 3 years. By the way, we're hearing the story of Purim. I'm going to summarize in 5 minutes. People don't realize how it took in a place of many years, I think 12 years total. And the beauty contest, all women were forced to be there. And who won? Esther. And Esther had an uncle. Some sources says that also was her husband, Mordechai. He was the rabbi and the Jewish leader of the generation. And he told her when she was forced to go, even before she won the contest, he said, if you win, don't tell anyone you're Jewish. And okay, so she won. Esther became the new queen. What just going back a little bit, Ahasuerus, the king, also, he sometimes think of like, oh, and she became the queen. Can you imagine being married to a man that killed his wife just because she said no to him? Ahasuerus was a very, very bad person, and being only living with him, especially being his wife, was a horrible situation for any person to be on, especially a Jewish, woman. But okay, so she's the queen, and Mordecai went to visit her every day. He went to check on her and to make sure, she was okay. And in one of his visits, he heard two of the guards talking about killing the king. And he called Esther. He said, listen, I overheard that, and tell the king that I told you. So she did exactly as Mordecai said, and the king took the guards, investigated, and killed them. And he was like, okay, very nice. And he was very busy, so he wrote on his book of memoirs, Mordecai saved my life, but he didn't say thank you at the time. And a while passed, and there was a man named Haman, and he became the vice king. He has a very high position, and he was a very big anti-Semite. He hated the Jews, especially Mordecai. He hated Mordecai for many reasons, but one reason is everybody had to bow down to Haman, and Mordecai refused. We don't bow down to people, but also one specific thing. Haman had a necklace with an idol on it, and Mordecai said, I'm not bowing down to an idol. And Haman, as we see, we're talking about very egocentric and narcissist people. So Haman comes to the king and says, I'm very mad with this Rabbi Mordecai, let's kill all the Jews. As we see before, the king wasn't such a good person, and he was also anti-Semite, and he was like, okay, do whatever you want, you have the ring. And Haman put that he's going to kill the Jews. That why is the holiday called Purim. Purim means lottery in Persian, and Haman does a lottery and to choose, when he's going to kill the Jews, and it falls on the month of Adar. There's a Jewish month, and thank you, Rada. And the month of Adar, he was very happy because he saw it's a month that has no holidays. And not only that, it's a month that Moshe Rabbeinu died. What, by the way, I didn't plan that, but today is the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, Zain Adar. And so today, everybody knows the 7th of Adar is when Moshe Rabbeinu died, and he knew that. He knew a little bit of Judaism and mysticism, and he was very happy. He was like, oh, that shows that the Jews are out of luck. God is abandoning them, and especially falls in a month that is not a good month for them. Well, he didn't realize two things. One is, for us, the day of passing of a tzaddik, like Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, is a day of celebration. Is the tzaddik complete, his mission? It's not a day of mourning. And besides that, also Moshe was born on Zain of Adar. It's Moshe's birthday too. So besides, it's a day that this huge holy man was born that brought so much light into the world. It says when Moshe was born, the whole house was filled with light. People could see from the outside. And it's not a physical light, a spiritual light that we're talking about. So, okay. And then he does this decree. It's said the Jews, on the 14th of Adar, 14 or 13, 14, I think. Okay, and Adar, the Jews, we're going to have a war. Yeah, 14. And they cannot defend themselves. You want to go kill your Jewish neighbor? Go ahead. You Jewish person cannot do anything about that. Hi, honey. And so that was the decree, and then Mordecai says we have to do something. And Mordecai says that's the reason why Esther was put in a such bad position to be the queen, in a horrible place, as I said, to be. But this means she can do something. So Mordecai called Esther and said, Esther, you're going to go to the king and you're going to tell him about, I don't understand what this face means. Why are you laughing? So she goes to the king. Mordecai tells her, you have to go to the king. Oh, nice. My computer is about to die. We're going to have a minute for me to try to charge it, because I'm trying to save these to post, like I said, in other places. For 1 minute. Okay, sorry, I'm back. So thank you for sticking around, whoever is sticking around. And so Mordecai tells Esther, you have to go talk to the king and tell him you're Jewish and that Haman is trying to kill your people, for him to do something about it. And Esther said, but you don't understand, I can't just, even that I'm his wife, I can't just go talk to him. He might kill me. We see his past history. And also, in another sense, her going to talk to the king is not only talking, and she didn't want to go, over her free will to be with him. As we mentioned, there is some sources said she was married to Mordecai, so this means that a woman that cheats on her husband, this would be cheating. They would not be able to be together. And Mordecai tells her, but that's the reason probably why you were made the queen. And you're worried about saving your life, but what about the whole Jewish people? That the Jewish nation will be saved, that there is no question. We trust in God. Everything God does is for the good. But the Jewish nation might not be saved by you. And you have now the chance to be the shlucha, the emissary, to do this mission. And so Esther, okay, she understands and she says, okay, but I'm going to talk to the king. This means, really everything that happens that we're saying, there is a spiritual meaning. It's not the king that decides, it's God. So to awaken God's mercy on us, let's declare a 3 days fast for the Jewish people. Everybody's going to fast, everybody's going to pray, everybody's going to gather in the synagogues. Let's get these prayers. Let's try to make God have mercy on us. Okay, so everybody does that. Esther goes talk to the king. He didn't kill her. He said, Esther, come, what do you want? And she says, I want to invite you and Haman to a meal that I'm going to prepare, a very nice meal tomorrow. And the king said, okay. And that planted a little bit of doubt on the king. He's like, why is Haman invited to this meal? Like, we see he's a very narcissistic man. He started getting a little jealous of Haman. And then there was the meal, and sorry, I'm trying to position this better. And there was the meal, and then on the meal, Ahasuerus says, tell me whatever you want, I will give you half of my nation. I like how such a nice husband, only half, that's how much you're worth. And she said, let's come again tomorrow to another meal. This 2 meals thing was to keep planting, like, why is Haman invited? And okay, they had the first meal, they ended. On that night, before the second meal, the king couldn't sleep. There is a concept that we call Ashgaha Pratis. Ashgaha Pratis is divine providence. On the whole Megillah, it doesn't mention the word God, but we're going to see that, and in the same as in our life, God doesn't do miracles so often in our days, but we're going to see how divine providence, things just happen. One providence is like, it happened that Esther was the king of, the queen of the Jewish nation. So there was another divine, also that Mordecai heard about the soldiers trying to kill the king years ago. So on that night, it happened that the king couldn't go to sleep. And he called one of his servants, read my book of memoirs. And it happened that he opened on the page that it said that Mordecai saved his life and he didn't do anything. So he started, thinking, I need to reward him, I need to say thank you. At that time, he heard Haman was walking around Haman also couldn't sleep, and he was walking around in the palace, because really Haman, he wasn't happy with killing the whole Jewish nation. He wanted to kill Mordecai. He had a personal thing with Mordecai, huge anti-Semite. And he built a huge gallows, and he was walking around the king's room because he wanted to be called in to ask the king if he could hang Mordecai. The king heard Haman and called Haman and said, come here, I have a question. What would you do to a man the kings want to honor? Haman has no idea who is this man. He thinks it's himself. Who would the king want to honor if not me? So Haman says, I would give him the royal horse, and I would, sorry, I'm trying to move the camera. Sorry. I would give him the royal horse, and I would put him in the king's clothes with the king crown to walk around the town to say, this is the man the king wants to honor. The king liked the idea and says, go do that to Mordecai. Or Haman he's like, oh my goodness, he can't say no to the king, but he's gonna take the man he wanted to kill and do that. Okay, so Haman does that. Right after Haman just walked through the whole city, he gets ready to go to the meal. The Esther, the queen, invited him. He's thinking, she likes me. And on the meal, Esther, so Ahasuerus says again, what do you want? I will give up to half of my kingdom. And she says, there is an evil person that wants to kill my nation. Haman, I am Jewish, and he made a decree to kill all the Jews. He wants to kill me. And the king is shocked. He's like, oh my goodness, what do I do? So he goes a little bit for a walk. At the time, Haman tries to beg Esther for forgiveness, and he fell on top of her. So when the king comes back, Haman is on top of Esther. He's thinking, oh my goodness, what is he doing? So the king, he saw the gallows outside when he went for a walk. The gallows that Haman had built for Mordecai, he take the soldiers and said, hang Haman and his sons. By the way, there is a whole thing with Haman's sons. I might tell the story later. Or I think I'm going to tell the story on the Purim parties. Come to the Purim parties to hear. And Haman and all his sons were killed by hanging. And then the king says, but a decree made by the king cannot go back. So we can't cancel the decree that Haman did, but we can do a decree that, the Jews should defend themselves and people don't have the obligation to kill them. And on 14 of Adar, like a few months after that, there was a war and the Jews won the war with God's help. And they celebrated. How did they celebrate this victory? They gave food to their friends, and they had meals, and that's why we give the shalach manos, and that's why we have a meal, and we invite poor people to join us. So that's the story of Purim. Another thing that we do in Purim, we dress up. Why do we dress up in Purim? Because, like I said, God is not mentioned even once on the whole story of Purim, because he's hidden. The secrets were done hidden. So we were accustomed, because we're going to hid ourselves and, be different. And what else we do on Purim? There is special prayers that we do. And I guess that's it. And like I was saying at the beginning, I'm just going to repeat because I don't know who is watching. It's a very, very holy day. It's very, very important to celebrate the holidays on the day of the holiday. And I know it's hard. I do understand you. So I'm saying, message me, message my husband. We are here to help you fulfill this mitzvah. All the four of them. So, but the one that is harder is the Megillah, because everything else, let's say the gift to the poor, I said you can give us and we'll give to someone. So you can even give us in advance, by the way. And so that's the tzedakah. The meal, you can buy kosher food, bread, challah, and have a sandwich, and that's a meal. And the shalach manos, you can even schedule today. There is Jewish websites, kosher websites, they even deliver for you, or you can, deliver to a Jewish friend on the day of Purim. But the Megillah, there is once in the night and once in the day, can only be done on the night and the day of Purim. And it has to be done, like I said, from a real Megillah, from the voice, not Zoom, not phone calls, not FaceTime. So that's why it's so important to try. There is so many, we live in, we are in New York. There is so many places that you can go and listen to the Megillah. And that's it. Thank you everyone for joining.